Welcome to Bond Nuts, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to another Lost Signals movie review. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Netflix original film, Bright. I'm Steve, your host, and joined here by Rich.
What's up?
Scott.
Hello there.
Chris.
Hello.
And I think we're going to go to Scott for a funny logline.
Yeah, so we tried to toss up a number of them, but I came up with Sauron ain't got nothing on me, which they're up to Training Day. So, and we'll tell you why in a few minutes.
Yes, as you'll see why that is apt. So we're going to continue on with the intro body conclusion with Scott.
Indeed. So, like I said, why I said that is this is basically a sort of magical training day, if you will. It's a world that has elves and orcs, and there's some conflict set up in the background, implied and also somewhat outright stated. So, Will Smith plays a LA cop who is partnered with the world's first orcish cop, Ward and Jacoby, respectively. And they basically trying to go about doing their coply duties in the downtown streets of LA, which also involve, like I said, the magical races that you're familiar with from other fantasy things. And they sort of get involved and they somewhat stumble upon a magical conspiracy involving a magic wand and other magic facts, magical rules that apply within this world, and end up going on a chase, teaming up with another elf that we'll speak about later, and eventually overcoming the evil that's going to bring back the Dark Lord, i.e. Sauron, more or less, Sauron's XP,
Or Voldemort.
and becoming respective heroes, even though throughout the movie we see that they're not quite great guys, although Jacoby better than Ward.
Awesome guy.
But nevertheless, they achieve some sort of redemption and with themselves in their own eyes, and in fact, true friendship, perhaps, as partners. So that's pretty much it. If we're going to the scores, I'm probably going with a solid 2. I can't really give it a 3. I have a couple of nitpicks that I might point out later, but I'm looking at a 2 for now, and I'll open up to you guys.
I'm going to go with the 2 as well, because I felt that it started out really strong, and I felt that the second act started to get a little weak, and the third act was a little weaker. It just felt like there was nothing wrong with it story-wise. It was just a matter of, like, it felt like it ran out of steam. But there's 2 things that I absolutely love about this film. And number one is that this wasn't like, Alien Nation, as good of a movie as that was. Like these,
Deep
no,
pull.
it wasn't like
If anyone out there remembers the Alien Nation, I like it though.
But it's not like it happens like 5 or 10 years after we discover the orcs. This has been all along. It's been the entire time. True. The elves are the upper class and the humans are kind of like the middle class. And then you've got like the lower class of orcs. And there are a couple other things there. The second thing I love, and we're going to talk about this more when we get to the characters, but the amazing gray area that Will Smith especially is. I mean, there is one point where his fellow cops are going to set up to assassinate him and Jacoby, and basically he kills those 4 cops, but he doesn't ever confess to it. He keeps it a secret. But no, that's so amazing because that's real. I mean, if you ever saw, and this is really esoteric, Woody Allen's Crimes and Misdemeanors, it was all about that in real life. There is no confession, there isn't always a confession. There isn't always remorse. It's like, I got away with this and, I got away with murder. So, and maybe this is touching on a lot of things like themes and characters, but like the strength of the movie was not in the main plot, but all the character stories. I mean, the stories within the characters, not.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. There's good character development throughout this, on both, through both Ward and Jacoby, I think.
I agree.
And we'll talk about that more when we get to characters. As far as the plot goes, I'm probably on board with you with the 2, what you guys said. It's a solid movie throughout. It's really like where I come
it's a
down
good
on
ride.
this movie is like,
yeah.
It's not the best movie I've ever seen. It's not like, it's a fun, it's almost like a popcorn, like summer movie, like a good fun, like Bad Boys, basically, but with orcs and fucking elves. Like, that's kind of
It's
what
not
it
a bad
feels
logline
like.
either, which we
And
discussed,
that's,
yeah.
When it really comes down to it, that's not a bad movie. Like, it's enjoyable the entire time. The plot isn't like the most, watertight thing in the world, but it's pretty solid.
That's what I'm saying.
And
it's solid enough.
They do a good job by just keeping it pretty simple, where you're just like,
they don't bog you down with unnecessary backstory and like.
Well, it's a character movie. It's about the characters, not so much about the story per se. The story is the framework.
But in terms of plot, it's like you found a wand. They found a wand. They have to protect it. That's pretty much it. The entire movie. Once that wand gets found,
other shit surrounds it. But you're right. Like it's essentially that, I guess. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things you go. I think a lot of the other things touch on themes more than plot. Like they go through this entire part of the movie where they meet the Dorgu, I believe is his name, the orc like gang lord, basically, who would have if this was like a medieval fantasy movie, he would have been a warlord. But now they just transfer him into a gang lord, and he runs a gang of orcs.
Even like he tells that little story about how he came from nothing. Like he was a bus driver back in Miami.
Exactly. And like he carved out a little place for his orc family and all this shit. Like
the world building is amazing in this movie. It's really well thought out. It's well executed. Every supporting character has their moment in the sun.
I'm counting that a lot towards style, so we'll save that.
I was going to say that might even go in style. I think a lot of these things bleed together in this movie, which now that I'm thinking about it is probably more of a plus for the movie as a whole. Like a lot, like
in a good way,
style. Plot, they all kind of blend more than a lot of other movies you see.
That's part of the reason I'm giving it a 2, because the main story, so to speak, we're protecting the MacGuffin was the weakest part. Yeah. I mean, that really kind of
but I mean, I don't know if I completely agree.
You needed something to keep the thing going, but I mean, I found it the least interesting part.
Okay.
Like you said, like we were saying about some of the characters precast, it's like, I just want to follow these guys around. I want this to be a regular day, not anything where we're trying to save the world. I mean, but the story was serviceable. That's about what I can say with it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I agree.
Two is a good choice. Like I don't have anything particular that I can take away from like intro-body conclusion. It's just like a little bit from each one.
Yeah.
Which kind of just levels it as a 2 for me.
Yeah, I think that's
well said. That's pretty much how I feel.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like anybody's convincing anybody of anything else.
No. Like I said, I think we all agree like it's pretty solid / strong too, but
all right.
That's pretty much it.
Well, let's move on to one of the more interesting questions that we're going to talk about with themes. And Chris, take us there.
It's really funny because I didn't know at the time, and I haven't seen Nightcrawler, but I know the premise of it. I've seen the trailers, clips, whatever. And that's immediately what I thought was Nightcrawler, Training Day.
End of Watch.
I didn't see End of Watch, but yeah, I got the whole, I got that whole.
Nightcrawler is much more unsettling, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But I got that whole, genre or whatever. And, yeah. But the thing is, I saw a lot of things, like, race relations, class relations, the gang lords, it's just like, these people aren't always heartless, I'm not, and there are really good cops and there are bad cops and there's good people and there's bad people. And I was waiting for those FBI agents to actually turn out to be evil.
Yeah.
And they were FBI agents. And so
they turned out to be one of the few people that are actually like
trying to keep things in order and on the level.
So thematically, I kind of thought the themes were, life and breaking down, stereotypes and embracing stereotypes, but then showing that there's beyond that. I mean, this movie really had that kind of uncomfortable feeling at the beginning where you both want to be there and not want to be there. It's just, so thematically, it's kind of hard to put my finger on to say it's man versus whatever. But I just think as a cross section of society and dealing with all those issues, I say that thematically, I can't put an exact name on it, but I'd give it a very strong one.
Yeah, well, it's all it's social allegories through like fantasy tropes, if you will. So it's commenting on that, yeah, like the race relations in America and at large, I would say, but specifically like a large American city such as LA, and
which is why it was such a smart move to have Will Smith play Ward. Like a black man sharing the prejudices that are usually reserved for
so
black people.
Exactly. So I like that. Like, that was all well done. But I felt as if maybe the reason you can't put your finger on it is something like, to me at least, I appreciated that they were going for that. And I think they achieved it pretty well. But it was somewhat inconsistent, specifically to Will Smith's character, which I'll speak about when we get to him. But overall, I thought, like, for example, a lot of the style, too, like I said, the opening shots of, like, all the graffiti, but instead it's, like, curse the police. Mm-hmm. Like that was pretty neat. Like, again, like, it was a nice, again, it's an allegory. So using, like, all our cultural touchstones of the stuff you know from, like, Lord of the Rings and shit to sort of insert it into modern-day society in America, which I thought was a smart choice, like you said, and well done, well handled. Just that some of it came off, like, I don't know, like, it's almost like they were contradicting themselves a bit here and there, at least to me, like, at points.
Like, you have any examples?
Yeah. So, like, for like I said, I was going to wait to speak about it for Ward, but he would say things like, I don't want Nick in my car, the work partner in my car, any more than anyone else does. But then, as if he would defend Nick, but then also, like, badmouth him, essentially, like, at the same time.
It's conflicted.
And
I get it, but it was like, if he was supposed to embody, like, that mindset, it was a little, like I said, sine wavy.
Well, you could still see it. You could see it too, because I think a good reason for their. Where did they show that is because he's trying to teach his daughter to be a better person.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it's like those conversations that he has with her are like playing in the back of his head, where he still wants to be like one of the boys that's just like, hey, fuck this orc. Like, I don't want him here any more than you. And then, like, he's just like, oh, mate, I'm trying to be a better person. Like, I really don't feel that way.
I guess, but then at the end he says, "You don't want me as a friend." Like, it's almost
he knows he's a shitty person.
He's a bad person for that. For like how he's conflicted.
I noticed those moments are a little bit jarring, but I am going to give Themes a 1 because I think their intention and their execution, as I have sort of become to view this question in that angle, should have set that up a while ago. I think they sort of dovetail very nicely. Yeah. So it's pretty solid. And like I said, I can appreciate what they're going for.
But his daughter was a better person because she was more accepting of Jacoby. But the other thing that Rich touched on, and Rich and I were talking about this the other day in our personal lives, about learned behavior and about, like, prejudices could be learned, and there could be peer. Well, no, hold on.
You're gonna drive me crazy. You keep saying learned.
I don't know why I just said that. Learned behavior. Oh my god. But anyway, learned behavior and the how peer pressure never goes away. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, and this goes to how great an actor Will Smith really is.
Wow.
No, no. When you get him in a role like this, he's got subtleties to his thing where he's spouting this prejudice, but at the same time, there's something about his movements, his gestures that imply that he's very uncomfortable that he has to say this. So, I think it dealt with the subtleties of these issues, the moment to moment things so well.
I've got a rebuttal to that to a small degree. I agree with you actually about Will Smith. That was being disparaging a little bit.
Well, he was quote unquote Will Smith in a lot of this movie too.
I'm gonna say that. I think he's actually a better actor than most people give him credit for.
He is.
But as far as themes go, I think that you're right. It covers a lot of really, like, high concept societal issues that are important right now, and for that I appreciate it. However, I think that most points of this movie, it does it at a very surface level. I don't think it really digs super deep into what's going on in any of these. Like,
to a degree.
I think it brings up so much that it can't dig that deep into any of the topics that it wants to go into, and I don't think that whoever was writing, I don't know who
Max Landis.
Max Landis. I don't think that when he was writing it, or at least the idea that I got from watching the movie, I don't think that he was interested in digging super deep. He just wanted to bring it up, like, talk a little bit about it, and then go back to action, and then we talk about the next thing, like classism, racism, what have you. Like, I don't think that. But he was interested in getting into a super deep discussion. He wanted to have a fun movie that kind of talked about that stuff a little bit.
See, I don't think he really needed to be in, to explore it, because this to me is a slice of life film, which is why I felt that the Let's Save the World plot kind of, like, detracted from it. And the thing is, these are issues that are going on in the real world. We're absorbing them. We're dealing with them every day to
you think that they gave enough of a they paid enough of lip service to it where people could just take it to its logical conclusion themselves.
I don't think it was lip service at all. It's like I was telling you before about the little subtleties of the moments that you could tell that this is peer pressure, that Will Smith character kind of conveys something as uncomfortable with it, that he actually does care about his character because he shoots 4 of his, his veteran cops before, in order to protect, Jacoby.
I feel like they went more into the prejudice. Or they went deeper into the prejudice. I think you're giving them credit for. I think the classism is something that they didn't really go deep into.
That's true.
They dealt with one more than the other.
That is true. But the other thing is, like, you look at like him shooting 4 of his fellow officers. That could have been a super deep, like super important theme in this movie. Like they could have gotten so much. They could have mined so much out of that. But that's not what the movie was really interested in.
They kept dealing with it, though. It's not like they forgot about it.
He didn't have a fucking second thought about that as very much. Like
but he was
worried about it.
Sure, he wrote that off immediately.
He's a cold-blooded fucking killer.
He's like, they were going to murder us first.
4 other cops.
No, they were going to murder us, so I murdered them first.
Yeah, and that was it. And you get so deep into the psychology of what was going on in his head during that, like how that played out, how it had to happen because of the way that race relations are, because of the way that everything is in this world, like.
But he didn't consider himself a hero for it. He knew that what he did was amoral.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But he also, the thing is, if they brushed it off, and he was, they never returned to it, I would see your point more. But I felt like, it was more of a slice of life.
They didn't forget it completely.
The movie didn't forget about it. Will Smith basically fucking forgot about it. It didn't show him ever feeling any remorse for doing that, or feeling anything about it at all.
In the hospital scene and in
at the end of the movie, you're talking about?
At the end of the movie. Well, no, because he was dealing with it like this was our only action. We have to cover it up. But by the same token, he didn't consider himself a hero. If his character considered himself a hero, that would have completely taken me out of the movie and ruined his character.
He didn't have to consider himself a hero. He just had no, inner conflict about it.
They were going to kill him. What else? What other choice did he actually have?
It's logic.
But that's the thing. When you look at an event like that, the reason to put it into this movie is either it's just a plot point, which it was in this movie, or it's a thematic element that you're going to dig deep into.
But it does, I think it plays into the whole
So
thing.
I think it's fine as a plot point. It's good. It's enjoyable. It's like a fun action flick plot point. But it's not a thematic element of this movie.
Sure.
And it should be, I think. Like, if you're going to put something like that in, where you just murder 4 people that you've worked with, that the movie has actually characterized all 4 of these people before this happens.
To a limited degree.
Yeah, but also the film takes place in one night, and they're on the run. So yeah, maybe the action of the main plot did take away from.
Sure.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just like you can't dwell on it when you're trying to survive. Like you survive one obstacle, and you're trying to survive the next obstacle, and you're trying to survive the next obstacle.
Do you think it would have worked if they showed him like in therapy at the end of the movie, like during a montage?
Not even in therapy, just like kind of dealing with it in some way.
He was mad that they had their faces up there with Rodriguez.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. He feels no remorse about it. He's like, fuck these guys at the end of the movie.
Sure. I mean, I get what you mean, but I'm still going to go with a solid 1. But to what you're saying, like, to me, I noticed that. It was like the movie either was, at times, in regard to themes, somewhat inconsistent, but less so than it was consistent about it. And also, it could have delved into a couple of things more, maybe if it had more time, or decided to, like you said, like was going to be more of a focal point versus it keeping the plot moving along. I think there's enough there, though, is all I'm saying, that even though I have my nitpicks with it, it's stronger than it is weaker in terms of what they were trying to address and what they showed within it.
All right, well, let's wrap up the themes. But
while I agree with you on the class thing, is what I wanted to bring up before, it was weak. They added one really little great, wonderful touch, is because when they went to Elfland, you had the orc who is the chauffeur, and he looked down on the orc cop. It was just like, all right, they didn't really get into the classism, but I thought that was like a really nice little texture.
Moment of it,
sure.
But it was a great texture. It was a great bit of, it was a little more of the world building, however ephemeral it was.
Sure.
I thought it was a great touch.
Well, I think I am gonna end up giving it a very soft 1 for my side. just because I like all the themes that are going on here. I like that they are not only are they there, but they're there and obvious, so that the people that have seen this movie, I've talked to all of them about these themes, and like
all the people who saw this movie, talked to them
all the people in this room.
Every single person who has seen this movie, I've talked to every single one of
so
them.
You just said technically, but go on.
All the people that I know that have seen this movie,
right.
I've talked and I've talked to about it. I've talked to them about the themes. Like the themes have come up, so like I think I have to give it at least credit for that.
Yeah, I think you should. I'm just saying, I was never not going to give it
and
credit.
It's going to be a 1 for that.
My closing thought is just that I felt like it was a little inconsistent at times, but overall did a good job. Like I said, intent, execution, damn solid.
Well, now I guess they'll go more into that in the sequel.
Hopefully, I would like to see.
Well, we'll see.
A digger deep.
Or it'll be just a action flick and like every other.
I really hope not.
Be a rehash the first one.
They're gonna fight a dragon or whatever.
All right,
fantastic.
that's gonna bring antagonists to me, and Layla, I believe is her name, is the
cadre of the inferior, whatever they're called.
Fury?
She's the bright who
the bad coven
basically owns the wand that is the MacGuffin of this entire movie.
That can bring back Sauron.
Yes,
or his XP.
Well, one of three.
One of three.
Whatever.
They have to get 3 of them.
Sure.
Collect all 3.
And I think she's a really impressive, like, Terminator-like.
Oh my god, her and her entire group.
Like they just keep coming the entire movie. I think antagonist is one of the stronger points of this movie. Actually, I love them.
She kills a fucking baby.
They're great. They're great before. They're great before they're on screen. Really, they're great after they're on screen. Like they're just. It's the force that drives this movie the entire way through, right up until the end. And the actress that plays her, I forgot her name. What's her name?
Noomi Rapace. I think that's how you say her last name.
She's great, and she does a great job in this. And her double dragons, as I'm going to call them, her 2 like lieutenants, I guess, or whatever, are terrific too.
Cadre, yeah.
Just a lot of fun to watch. I mean, not all the combat really makes perfect sense. Like they just cut to ribbons like these other people, and then Will Smith and Nick Jacoby give what's his name? Daryl Ward and Nick Jacoby give him a ton of trouble by themselves. I'm like, no, they should be in 700 pieces.
Most of the movie, they're running away and like just random shit happens. But
every time they stand up, they're like, all right, now we can get a punch on this guy. Whereas like every other random person that tries to fight him is like gets flipped over and then like cut in half.
The reason is because he's blessed.
Yeah. Well,
they're in a prophecy.
Well, Jacoby's not blessed. They are in a prophecy.
Sure.
But I really like the antagonists, and I'll let you guys say your piece.
Yeah, I don't know much to say about them. Yes, I agree. She did a good job, and they were effective. They're basically elf Terminators, as you said. Their action scenes were pretty good. So I might.
Do you count all 3 of them as antagonists? That's another question, I guess. I think just her.
Mostly her.
I think just her.
They're like
the other 2 are gonna be supporting.
The other ones are there, but again, they're like.
So all right, she's. I consider her an antagonist because Candermere and Montague specifically mention her by name as the one that they need to find.
She's the big bad for sure. So I'm gonna channel Ian Manzer a bit here and say like, I understood their motivations to resurrect the Dark Lord. Makes sense, sure, but they weren't all that well characterized. Like beyond that, but that's kind of fine. I do agree. Like I said, like you said, they're effective, and when they were like actually going up against random extras and or the protagonists, they are like they work pretty well together.
So much fun action scene.
But like I'm saying, like they're basically the living MacGuffins, if you will, sort of. They're chasing inanimate MacGuffin.
That is exactly what I was gonna say.
Right. So that's fine. It's just that like you just have to be aware of that. Like the movie doesn't really do anything beyond that. But for what it does do, I think they're damn solid. So I'm probably gonna give them. Not a soft one, but just a decent one.
Regular old one.
And yes, Noomi did a good job for what she had. I got
nothing more to add to that.
I feel like they were MacGuffins. I thought they were really amusing and satisfied the action quote. But they were a plot device. They weren't really, to me...
A lot of it's going to go to style.
So I'm going to give this a 0 because as antagonists, as characters, I thought they were fun. And they serviced the action quotient, and they were, as Scott said... Exactly what I was going to say. They were the other MacGuffin in the movie. They could have been anybody, which is one of the reasons I felt that the ending was weak because they kind of forgot her for a while, which I liked. But when we got back to it, I was just like, ugh, we got to deal with this again, And so they were funny. The action scenes were good. I like the fact that every time they thought they got a leg up on them, it turns out the antagonist, had other plans. and they didn't always succeed until the end. But as an antagonist, I have to give it a 0.
So you're channeling Ian more than I am, in fact. I feel like he would do the same, and I totally understand why. It's just that I've sort of convinced myself and come down on the one side.
I actually was going to give them a 0 for the same reason that Chris did, but Steve-O convinced me to give it a 1.
There you go. Well
Call
done.
me the convincer.
Yeah, this one I was, like I said, wavering on, but coming down with the 1. So
yeah, I'm okay with my 1.
I feel Chris's 0 as well.
Let's move on to Rich with protagonist.
Protag. I'm going to split this up between Darryl Ward and Nick Jacoby.
Yeah.
Like, Ward, perfect anti-hero. He's an unlikable asshole with very few redeeming qualities. The only one being that he's not as racist as everybody else.
Not as much of a dick or
Slightly
corrupt.
less racist than everyone else.
Yeah.
But deep down he is a good man. Like, you could see that he's
trying to be.
He's trying to be, but he's a great cop, and he does as much as he can to do the right thing. Then you have Jacoby, who's like the nicest motherfucker in this entire movie. Like, he's just like a ball of sunshine and hope.
Terrible cop.
And
the shithole of LA.
Awful cop.
The shithole of mythical LA.
I mean, he's getting there. Like, he does some good cop stuff. Like, he's like, I love the fact that that whole flashback at the beginning of the movie to show like when, the day Will Smith got shot.
He has the
Which
burrito.
like looks, he's like got the burritos like
Yep.
like in slow motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
very
love
enthusiastic. He's rookie style. He's happy to be there.
It's like, but I also like because I like both of their character development, their arcs in this movie. Like, you have Ward trying to become a better person and like unintentionally becoming a world-saving hero and finding out there is something special to him. And you have Jacoby, who just basically wants respect. Like, he wants the honor that he could never get from his fellow orcs or humans or anybody for that matter.
Without sinking to their
level.
I think that's one of the...
And like by staying true to himself, gets that honor.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the I mean, not to go back to themes, but I think that's one of the best themes of this movie is Jacoby's feeling in between both worlds, and something that we didn't really talk about in themes. So maybe
I was going to wait to speak to that.
He says,
right here,
he says he has that speech. I forgot. I'm paraphrasing, but he talks about how like the orcs treat him just as bad as the humans because he's unblooded.
Yeah, he's hated in both communities more or less.
Yeah, he literally has nothing.
Despised.
Yeah, he's despised in both communities and has nothing but being a cop. And like he reveals like was it a little bit about halfway into the movie that he's basically like this whole night has like caused him to develop a bit of a death wish. He's just like, if I'm gonna die protecting this wand, like at least I'll die with honor.
Yeah,
like that's the only thing that's gonna be worth it in my life.
Yeah.
No, I mean it was a really good buddy relationship. Definitely, like I feel like Max Landis wrote this role specifically for Will Smith.
He did.
That character, so that makes sense because he basically said he Will Smithed it up in one of the best ways, like in the classic Will Smith way, if you will. And they played off each other. I forget Jacoby's actor's name. You keep telling me.
Joel Egerton.
Yeah, Egerton did a good job, like not playing straight man per se, but like playing like the more honorable-ish or person, if you will.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they had a great relationship, and like you said, their arcs grew over time. They had indeed both had arcs, and they sort of crossed over in some sense.
Yeah,
and achieved to again a large degree what they were trying to do. Like you said, Ward trying to be a better man, and Jacoby trying to earn respect in one community or both, and did that. So yeah, I think they both did a solid job, and I enjoyed them throughout. I think they're one of the strongest points of the movie, and I'm not sure if they gotten different actors if it would have been as good as it was.
I don't think so.
No. I think the thing about Jacoby, and I think we've touched upon this, is the fact that he wants to be a better man is reflected in his wife and his daughter.
Oh, you're talking
Ward. Sorry. And Jacoby, one of the things I liked about him is he had this, what really happened in that alley? Did you let this criminal go? And they didn't wait until the end, or they didn't even wait till the scene at the pit where
it was like a third
shot.
of the way into the film.
Yeah, it was right at the end of
right before he shot the cops.
Yeah, it was right at the end of the first act, and it was great because they built upon that. It wasn't like this ongoing mystery. Other than that, I loved both these characters. I thought they were great protagonists. I thought, as Scott said, anybody else, I can't imagine this role. And through all that makeup, Joel Egerton was great. Will Smith balanced out the quote unquote Will Smith with actually showing what a dynamic actor he really is. The characters are really well written. They're really well thought out. And even though it got a little maudlin when the orc crew came up and gave him the blood thing,
no, I mean like
but it felt
that was
deserved.
never not going to happen.
No,
dude.
but it felt it actually. You knew it was exactly. You knew it was a trope. You knew it was going to happen, but it felt.
But they earned it.
Yeah,
But they
earned
felt.
it.
Yeah, exactly. It felt earned. So
yeah. So I think they're one of the stronger points of Bright, and I'm going to give them both a strong one.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that they both did a really good job, and they're the reason that this movie was as fun as it was to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't have much more to say than that. I don't think there really needs to be much more said.
I don't have anything either.
So that said, we're gonna move on to supporting with Scott.
All right. Shall we start with the fairy who gets murdered at the beginning? Does that count as a secondary?
That was one of the most
It was an odd scene.
That was an off-putting part.
And
I don't know why they fucking.
I've been waiting to bring that up exactly because it's one of the things that took away points from the overall plot, if you will. Just like because it was such an odd thing to have A and B at like the beginning, like 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
I get it that it was supposed to be like world building to some degree, but it seemed just bizarrely handled.
And I don't know why they evoked the fucking Black Lives Matter in that. Like, fairy lives don't matter today. I was like, what the fuck? What even is the point of that
That's
line?
what I'm saying about the inconsistencies.
It was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't really, and it was just weird.
I don't think it was meant to be funny because it was really disturbing when she's
it
like,
came off as that they meant
when
as
his
a
wife's
joke,
like, you got to kill that fairy. I'm like, ew.
But that's what I'm saying about the inconsistencies in themes. But anyway, that aside,
that whole scene was very off-putting.
Disturbing and off-putting.
Well, I had to bring it up just to because no one else had yet and was waiting.
And it was bizarre.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Like I said, so barring that though, the actual secondary characters that I like the most, I think, were the two magical FBI task force agents,
Candemire and Montague.
Candemire and Montague, yeah, like they were perfect. It was an elf partner, and human partner, who are essentially like they're the ones who kind of know the most of what's going down with
they're
Layla and
they're specifically law enforcers, right?
Yeah.
Aragorn and Legolas Special Victims Unit.
Yeah, exactly. MCU. But yeah, so like they were damn quality.
God, that would have been a good tag.
Maybe
that is absolutely perfect. Was it Aragorn and Legolas?
Yes, we were sort of joking that like maybe that might be the spinoff for the sequel. But either way, I think they did a good job. They were nice. They were like nice sort of like. They cut up the story between Will Smith and Edgar nicely because like they were also involved in the plot. So like every once in a while, would cut back to them like, oh, what are those guys up to? Oh, they're on their trail. Like they're tracking them down as well. They're also figuring out what's like the trail of destruction left by Will Smith and Edgar. So after that, there's let's see, I don't know who's left.
Tika,
I suppose. Yeah, I guess she's important. Yes, I won't like not say that. At least to the plot.
She's pretty goddamn important.
She's not. She's okay. She's characterized
she's another MacGuffin.
decently. She's less
True.
of one.
Yeah.
She's less of one, Chris, because at least they flesh her out a bit more.
She's almost like she's almost literally the manic pixie. Like,
yes, kind of. And
yeah.
But at least she does gain some personality and some rapport with the two partners. At least towards the latter end of the film.
Yeah, it turns out she's been lying about only speaking Elvish.
Yeah, exactly, and all that. And the orc gangster leader.
Oh, and she
What was his
teaches
name
ward
again?
magic.
She's just Dorgu.
Yeah, Dorgu. Like I think he was well done. His posse, if you will, and also Poison, who was the Latino gang posse. And then I have to mention this. Will Smith / Ward's wife. I don't remember her name because what happens is
I just looked it up.
See, it doesn't matter because this is what I thought was funny. She's, if you know this trope, instead of being shipped on a bus, she was phone called on a bus, like essentially. Yeah. Will Smith calls her up when he figures out like shit's gonna go down and says, "Get you and my daughter out of town." And she doesn't show up until the very end of the film after that. You think like he's going to go back and save her and all this stuff. So I found that amusing that she was just like gone for like 80% of the film.
The reason I thought that she was going to have a bigger role in the movie is because like they spend like the first 10 minutes is just like her and Ward just like shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And,
They set her up.
she gives as good as
it felt like the beginning of fucking Independence Day, like sort of. Like, in that sense, like they're
just like they're like bantering back and forth. She's just as foul mouthed and hot headed.
Yeah,
I thought that
she was.
They set her up as a good character,
exactly.
And then they threw her away.
But no, I don't think they did because it said so. Again, this is a very character driven movie, and you get the kind of pragmatic person she is because when he does call her up and say, "Get the daughter,"
she
just
she just leaves.
Yeah.
She's out to having drinks with her friends,
She's not
she doesn't.
why or whatever. Like, yeah.
She doesn't.
Well,
say,
she says
like,
why
I gotta
once,
go.
and he's just like, just go. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
She doesn't say anything. She just grabs her shit and leaves. Her friends are like, "What the fuck?" She doesn't think about it. She's just this really pragmatic person.
I guess that's fine, but that means like she's also.
It wasn't a huge payoff, but it was a payoff.
Sure.
So I'm gonna say this. I enjoyed a lot of this supporting character.
Oh, I did too. Like, I hope you didn't like get out of it. That
However, I think I'm going to give supporting characters a 0 because there is 0, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm just missing or forgetting something. But like, I feel like there's 0 growth development in any of these supporting characters.
It takes place in the night.
I understand that.
Yeah, but there's growth. He doesn't really change.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Because when his son reveals that he was the one,
still kills a motherfucker and throws him down.
But then he comes back and then comes back to life. And he's just like, oh.
So it's not him changing. That's him being like, oh, if somebody comes back to life, I'm gonna fucking do this thing that I would always have done if anyone ever came back to life.
No, it shows external honor though, because he saved his
But he always
son.
had that. It's not like he didn't have that at first.
True.
No, but what I'm saying is, what's interesting about it is it shows a different side of it. Like the orcs, there is this great sense of external honor. It's like, Jacoby wants to be accepted, and that's external. But Jacoby also has an internal morality. So he's kind of like, I'm going to invoke Star Trek. He's like Worf in that he's got his internal honor outweighs his external honor, which he knew he was going to die, and he met it face on. The gang leader, when he found out his son had lived, he dismisses his son so he doesn't have to see it and still shoots him because he's trying to satiate the external honor. And I thought that, they didn't really need to really explore that so much because it wasn't about the supporting characters so much as how they reflected upon our protagonists. And again, we keep coming back to world building. We keep coming back to these different textures, but they all added to the world. They all added to their characters. And even Will Smith, when he is racist, he's doing that external honor to fit in, but he's got this internal morality. And I thought that without the supporting characters, the protagonists wouldn't have be as dynamic as they were.
Plus, Tika's confidence does grow too.
Yeah,
like she becomes an actual player instead of.
Actually, Tika is the only one that has somewhat of an arc.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
I don't think anybody else has any real character development outside of the protagonist.
And that's my problem as well.
And I think I might give this a 0 on the strength of that. As you have been mentioning this entire podcast, Chris, this is supposed to be a character, or this is kind of a character piece, right? Like, and if it's a character piece, we need to see something from the supporting characters that, they don't need to be 3-dimensional characters, but they need to be at least 2-dimensional.
Well, I thought they were at least 2-dimensional.
They all are one path, and that's kind of, except for Tika. And it could be argued, is that his name? Dorgu? It could be argued him as well, but I don't really see it that way.
But the thing is, it takes place in one night, and if they had to develop every single character, this movie would have been unfocused as shit. The focus was on Jacoby and Ward. That was the focus of the movie, and everything else was ancillary. Okay. Which is why I said this as a character piece. This movie is incredible. From the overall story, that's the weak part.
So, in terms of the ancillary supporting characters, I thought that they were not strong enough to garner a 1.
Yeah,
they were too ancillary to garner a 1.
Rich just quickly mentioned that I forgot Sheriff Rodriguez, who I thought
he was great too, but
character. Again,
still one-dimensional.
The thing is, I'm getting that. I'm probably agreeing with you. As much as I enjoyed them all, especially the FBI agents and everyone else side character wise, Chris fleshed out the world. A lot of it, I'm putting the style, and because of that thing, because only arguably Tika and maybe Dorgu, but I don't think quite gets there.
I agree.
Like, they were enjoyable, yes, but I don't think as characters they're enough to earn a 1.
There were good tropes. There were good
only Tika
good
might
tropes throughout the story, which I enjoyed and had a good time with.
Exactly,
but they're not really characters as much as set dressing.
I'm pretty much
think most of them.
in your boat on that side. And you thought I was going to give it a 1, but
I did think you were going to give it a 1.
I enjoyed them all, but
I'm going to give it a 0, and it's a soft 0.
Yeah.
I was close to giving it a 1, but
nobody did a bad job. It's just that because they didn't really have arcs per se and were like ancillary at best, and I don't think that's enough for me to give them a 1.
I agree. All right, what do you guys think? 1's from you two?
What are you giving it, Rich?
I don't know. Chris,
Yes.
what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a
He's
1.
giving it a 1 solidly.
I mean, the thing is, aside from
I don't have any more arguments
aside
about
from their purpose in the development of Jacoby and Ward, I like them. I thought they were interesting enough that to me, if I want to see more of them, they succeed as being a character that is fleshed out enough. Like the FBI agents, I thought were great. We all agree that we want to see a buddy cop show, but again, they can't develop every single character because the movie would gotten completely unfocused. And if this were a series, like if they did a 10-part series,
then maybe that'd have been different.
And we got to the end 10-part series, and the characters were as fleshed out as they were in this less than 2-hour movie, I would absolutely agree with you.
I get you.
But nobody's judging it on what could have been or what might have been.
But that's my point. That's why I'm giving it a 1, because I understand why they had to do what they do. But I felt that I enjoyed them as characters, and I felt that they served their role as characters.
Okay.
All right.
It's fine.
Is that
Give it a 1.
convince you either way? All right.
Give it a 1? All right.
There you go.
All right. It's going to move us on to dialogue. Chris.
Yeah, this is difficult. The thing about it is I'll probably give it a soft 1 because the dialogue was very natural. The movie did not feel scripted except for like maybe 1 or 2 little maudlin parts. And I think a lot of it was nonverbal. But as I would always say before, the dialogue has to be unnatural for me not to at least give it a soft 1. And I thought it was natural. I don't really have much to say in terms of dialogue. It definitely getting a soft 1. It's kind of just above average. Let's just put it that way.
That's kind of how I feel as well. But I think you had mentioned that this dialogue was written specifically for him because he delivered very well. The thing is, some of it, as I said, the inconsistencies with some of it, like I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall, if I do it mathematically, as I sometimes do, might be like something like 60-40, 60 solid to good, 40 like a little iffy, or like I said, like a little like, that was odd, or like they could have done that, like we said, like the extermination of the pest fairy at the beginning, and like what was said in dialogue,
right,
in and around that, and some other things too. But overall, yes, I thought it was naturalist, as you said, organic, you might say as well, Chris. And like I said, Ward and Jacoby had a very good rapport with each other, so I thought their exchanges were quite solid.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have much more to say beyond that. Suffice to say that I'm probably going with maybe a soft, like you said, 1 solid max.
I think that I think that I agree with you on your analysis of the dialogue. I think I might give this a 0 for dialogue, just because...
And I can see it. I get you.
Just because for a movie that was close to the border, there was at least one point, and we're talking about the fairy part in the beginning, that kind of made me cringe. Like I didn't like it, and like.
But you weren't supposed to like it.
It's hard. No, I mean, there is like this dialogue is like makes you feel awkward, but it's good dialogue, and then there's this should not have been written this way, and that was what that part was to me.
Saying it's the latter.
So is this movie's version of the baby eating scene?
Kind of, yeah. Yes.
Very curious.
Actually, that's
hold on a second.
baby eating.
Please feel free to go on a minute rant. Right?
I'm not going to go on a baby eating rant.
Come
again.
on. No.
I've already done it.
No.
It's boring to our audience.
No. A fairy killing rant.
No.
Come on, man.
It's like I've already said the things that I want to say.
Right, but is there anything else that you want to point out that dialogue
bringing up
didn't like?
The social matters that came up and like coding the words in the way that they were coded, like, oh, go outside, kill a fairy, right? And then bring up Black Lives Matter, like, but call it Fairy Lives Don't Matter Today, and have a black guy saying that was just so fucking cringeworthy. And
well, that was
bad dialogue, bad.
Right, that was the most egregious thing about dialogue. Is there anything other points that
the other stuff was fine. Like I thought that Ward and Jacoby's repartee was pretty good. Like I thought they had, but for a movie that wasn't like super strong in dialogue, other than the one cringeworthy scene, if it's close and a scene makes me cringe, I think I got to give it a 0.
Fair enough. Pushed over the edge to 0 for you.
Fairies are the best. They are the moths of people.
Right.
So I feel that I'm going to give it a 1. The reason I'm giving it a 1 is because I very much, in a weird way, enjoyed all of the racist talk about orcs. Like they got very creative. Like when
that was really interesting. Like that was good satire.
What's that one asshole cop's name with the mustache?
Got Johansson maybe. It had some generic ass names.
Yeah, but like when he goes on that rant about it, was like, oh, it's like my ancestors killed them by the thousands.
Yeah.
Like that was a great asshole racist rant.
Yeah, exactly. That shit was great.
Yeah, it felt like natural. Like I said, like an asshole cop would say that.
Like that was
about
good.
orcs.
That was good satire. That was a
sure.
That was that was the defenders of the Confederate flag going, well, my ancestors killed this, but I don't have any control of that. You know, but like saying like in yet you accept it, you are a culpable racist.
Like I said, I can see it's close, but 60-40 for me. 60 just enough to give it a decent 1 on dialogue.
All right. So everybody's a 1 except for me?
I get your reason for a 0 as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna say with 0. It's a soft 0. I could have gone to a 1, but I think that
like I said,
just for that reason, like
it could be close.
That scene like just bugged me. It just wasn't well written, and it seemed out of place in the movie.
Fair enough.
All right, and that's gonna come back to me with style. I thought that the style of this movie was pretty good. The makeup and the effects were really good in this. Like I thought they seemed to ground the movie in the place and time that they wanted to be, despite the fact that it was a completely made up universe. And it was a very believable modern day.
Well, it wasn't completely made up. It was just
fantasy, urban fantasy story. And I just think the cinematography was great for that. I don't remember much of the music from it.
This is what Suicide Squad should have been. Closer to this.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm going to agree. You said about the makeup and so forth. I liked the opening shots, especially of like the graffiti, but via the fantasy stuff. I thought that was very nice. Like throws you into this world, sets you up for what you know.
Great
like
world building.
Exactly for what you know what's coming. And there's one thing that I'll let Rich speak about that might go with his style as well. A lot of the world building, but overall, I agree. Steve, what was shot, like the action was quite well done when it came time for like action and chase scenes and stuff. It was all competent to solid.
Yeah.
So on that front, this might be one of the stronger points of the movie. So I have to give it a pretty strong 1.
Like I agree with both of you. Well, all of you apparently about the prosthetics for all the races. That they all gave them all distinct look, no matter what,
whichever one it may be.
Yeah. Like that was one of the most realistic centaurs I've ever seen in my entire life, and he was only on screen for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But like the one thing that's definitely getting a solid 1 from me is the aftermath of the spells that were used. Like when they're walking through they're walking through the hallways and like seeing the aftermath of like
chick is fused into the wall.
The chick's fused into the wall, like the corpses are still smoldering.
Yeah. It's like a horror scene.
Yeah.
And like they're just getting more and more horrified as they walk through. And it's just like once they see the chick fused to the wall, they're just like, oh, all right, we're fucking I'm calling him back up.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like that thing from Event Horizon. We're fucking leaving.
Yeah.
And like at first, like I thought it was like maybe a ritual, and then like they showed the flashback to how she ended up like that.
Yeah.
And then she turned out to still be alive. I'm like, God damn.
That was awesome.
So that's why I left that for you, and I agree, it was awesome.
And one of the things I found was interesting was the orcs. Like, if they filed down their teeth. So it's like it's like body mutilation, but it's the other side of body mutilation. So instead of like the gangs altering their body, they're it's actually
it's the unblooded that file their teeth down.
It's interesting.
But yeah, so all that to say, like style is probably, like I said, one of the strongest points of Bright, and I got to give it a damn strong 1.
Very cool stuff. Can we please just mention the dragon real quickly?
That's also what I was going to wait for one of you to
I
bring
missed it when I
missed
watched the
too.
movie, but
up. So look out.
I'm glad that Scott found it.
So
watch out
Rich
for the dragon.
Rich had seen Bright before I had, and had said to me that apparently there's a shot of a dragon in the background of LA at some point, and I missed it. So having known that, I wasn't quite on the lookout for it, but I did notice it, and I was like,
Yeah.
but I knew about it. I'm not sure if I would have seen it without having been told about it, but I will say it was pretty cool. It's a nice touch. Like I said,
I don't know how you missed the dragon. It was right.
Shut up, Chris.
I can see how one could, is all I'm saying, but
Probably what happened is like I looked away to grab something like when it flew by.
or like
Yeah,
maybe he was taking
yeah.
a drag of a cigarette or something, right? Cut people a break, Chris. The point is,
Give a break over here.
the point is,
But I thought you didn't smoke in your house, so
the
that's
point is that it is there, and if you catch it, cool. And it adds to the world building thing.
Yeah. Plus the fact that nobody ever mentions dragons once.
Yeah,
which makes you think like how like
I want to see what other races
How
there are.
common are they?
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway,
All right, so that's ones all around
I think so.
for style.
Yep.
yeah.
All right,
Yahtzee.
so let's move on to recommendation and Chris. Go ahead.
Me. Yeah, I highly recommend this movie.
I'm sorry. Rich. It's not
Sorry,
Chris.
fuck.
Rich.
That's
what I
right.
thought.
It looked like a C, but it was.
I was going to correct you, but then I let you go on. Anyway,
Well, I mean,
Rewind.
obviously I recommended it to you guys.
yeah, that is true. He did.
You did immediately after it came
Right.
out. Like I think you watched
Yeah,
it the
because
first
like
day it came out, right?
I think it was the first day,
And it's
but like
pretty recent.
because like I was like reading up on it and like I saw the like terrible reviews, and I was just like, you know what? I was gonna watch it anyway, might as well. And I'm like, this isn't as bad. This isn't bad. It's not a
Yeah.
bad movie.
No, it's actually a pretty good movie. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it has enough going for it to, I don't know, warrant more than like this movie's terrible.
Yeah, it's
rant
funny.
that everybody's going
Exactly.
on.
It's funny because precast we were saying what the actual critical reviews were on it, and they're pretty much divided. They're about 55% on Rotten Tomatoes or something, Steve, like that.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
it's like-
something terrible like that.
That's not a great score according to that, but it seems like maybe we're the audience. It's for this movie or something like. And
Maybe.
if you're anywhere near us, like it's got some nerd stuff, but it also is again putting it into a serious real life social situation, and it's really well done overall. Like we just said about style. So I definitely highly recommend Bright. I wasn't sure what to think of it. I was sort of gonna like not skip it on purpose, but like do other things. But since Rich had mentioned it to us a week or two ago,
Yeah.
and we decided to do it for this review, then yeah, if you don't know about it or haven't seen it or are wavering, I say check it out.
Second best Netflix movie out this year.
Yeah, true.
Or last year.
Or in the past, 2 months.
What was first?
Mudbound.
Mudbound. Was really good.
Shit, I haven't seen that. Isn't Joel Egerton in that too?
I don't-
Is it Joel Egerton?
I have no
I
idea.
don't know. I mean, he's a freaking orc in this. I don't know what the hell he looks like. Maybe it's him.
But do you recommend Bright?
Oh hell yeah! I stepped on Rich before, and I'm
I know,
sorry.
that's why it's funny.
Oh, sorry.
It's a
I
troll
forced
question.
you to. It's my
You
fault.
did. I guess I'm a little bit of a follower tonight.
But anyways.
Especially for fans of Alien Nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say. It's damn solid. Check it out. Is anyone
Well,
else?
Chris,
yeah,
what's
I
your,
mean,
what's your
I
opinion?
didn't know Rich saw it until we went out last week. So, no, from the first time we saw the trailer on this, Beth and I definitely wanted to see it. It was a lot. It started off a lot better than we thought it was, and like I said, once the main arc got in, it's a little weaker. But overall, it's a very strong movie. I highly recommend it. I do not understand. I didn't see any of the negative reviews until after I'd seen it. And I'm like, what the fuck are these assholes talking about? So, and especially since Game of Thrones is one of the biggest things out there, I can't understand why this doesn't. I've never seen Game of Thrones, but it's a fantasy world. You have to. I don't know. I figured this would have a wider appeal.
It's a very different thing, but it's a very different animal. But
That's what's so
regardless.
cool about it. It is a very different animal.
I think we're all going to be in agreement here that recommendation is going to get a 1.
We all say you should watch it.
I'm not sure why it's getting such poor reviews. I think it's just a straight up fun buddy cop movie. It's not the best movie you're ever going to see by any means,
But it's goddamn solid.
It's a fun flick to watch. If you got like some friends around, you want to just watch a movie that's enjoyable, you could do much worse than this movie. So I'm going to give it a recommendation, and that is going to bring us to our scores.
So where does that leave us, my friend?
I give the lowest score with a 7. Scott and Chris both gave it 8s, and Rich gave it a 9.
Nice.
So that is going to be an aggregate score of an 8.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
That's like perfectly fine.
Is that pretty much what everybody figured they were going to give it?
Yeah.
before?
I gave it exactly what I thought I was going to give it, and it still stands.
That works out. So,
Exactly.
Bright's an 8 movie. It's probably around there in terms of like a fun movie.
Go check it out.
You don't have to go anywhere. The best part is you can just sit in your room and put it on Netflix.
And by the way, I wasn't talking about if anybody's opinion. If you didn't like it, that's fine. I'm talking about critics, though.
Sure.
I'm not talking about any of our listeners' personal opinions because everybody's got their opinions. I just think
if you didn't like it, tell us why.
All hate mail, send it to Chris.
Yeah, send the Chris.
We'll get you his personal address.
Send it to me. You can call me an asshole. I take it as a term of endearment.
Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us here. We've been talking about Bright. I have been your host, Steve Ramosi, and I guess I'll say everybody's last name this time. Here with Rich Perry.
Stay bright.
Scott Thurlow.
I've been straight out of Azeroth. See you next time.
And Chris Morgan.
Peace and long life.
Have a good one.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.